Good morning. This meeting of the Pender County Board of Education's Committee of the Whole is now called to order, and it is determined that we do have a quorum. At this time, I will take motions to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion for that.
Mr. Halls made the motion.
Second.
Thank you. And we have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we're going to go directly into the agenda. Number 3, financial planning. 3.1, attorney expense, Ms. Nowlin.
Hey, good morning, Board.
Good morning.
You have the attorney expenses in the file. Do you have any questions related to those expenses?
I don't.
Okay.
No,
And then
in order.
the next item, fuel and electric. Any questions? We are still continuing to work with them to get all of the bills loaded in. We still see some inconsistencies in what came over. Hopefully, we'll have those resolved in the next month or so. So then we can do that analysis that you requested.
I appreciate that.
The next item is the board report. There are no remarkable concerns. I think we're right where we should be in most items. About 75% expended at this time of the year. You will see now is when we'll start moving some money between state and local and state and federal, and doing budget amendments to try to maximize all of those funds. So you'll see some changes over the next month. And you'll see, if you look at the board report by the summary PRC, and that just shows that PRC 14 is waiting on some months of employments. It's like $18.45 in the whole, so we're waiting on that to come in. No other over budgets other than 143, and I just received that budget amendment as I sat down in my chair, so that'll take care of that overage. And everything else is at budgeted expenses, so no other concerns, but just that's the more detailed report. Any questions or concerns about the budget reports?
No, ma'am, everything
Okay.
I saw looked in order. There was nothing that really stood up. Any questions,
Questions?
y'all?
Okay.
Okay.
And the next items are your state and federal budget amendments. Again, we were talking about how we'll start doing some cleanup and making sure that all these budgets are amended, and that's what these budgets are, budget to actual, kind of wrapping up final transfers and amendments that are coming in from the state, and just traditional budget cleanup. Any questions about the budget amendments?
No. I don't.
None.
Next item, budget planning update. So this is kind of where I want to spend a little bit of time. You know, I have shared over the last 2 meetings some of what our estimates were. So we did get a newest update on 415 that the Senate bill, the Senate has passed, the Senate has put through what they want their budget to be. So this is kind of an update. UCI, they estimated it at the very top of 3% raise, retirement at 25%, and hospitalization at 85.95. So come down to the Senate bill, possible state raises. They're looking at a 1.25% raise for all staff, which would be classified. Teacher raises are looking at approximately 2.3, but again, remember that 2.3% is just like probably the starting and not down at the end. So you go through 0 to 30 years So those raises could be even lower, some higher, some lower. So not where any of us, I think, wanted to be. They are talking about a $1,500 bonus for all employees, and that's over the biennium. So if you look at the actual bill, it'll say $3,000, and people think they're getting $3,000, but it's over 2 years. So it'll be $1,500 bonus, and that basically that's for all staff.
Everybody, no matter years of service or whatever.
That's correct.
Okay.
And again, this is not the final, right? So this is just the Senate version, but this is all we have to plan on. The next thing is the possible decrease in central office allotment by 5%. They're gonna cut central office by 5%, which is roughly around $40,000 for us. So just kind of let you know where we are. And this will be a new trend on the central office cut. Over the past they did this about 5 years ago. They were cutting from central office, and they started slowly adding a small percentage. So it seems like they're back on trend to cut central office staff, the central office allotment. What do we pay with the central office allotment? The superintendent, the assistant superintendent, directors. Could be we pay part of our maintenance director out of there. So those are the areas that you pay out of there. So just any questions about that? Just kind of want to let you know where we are.
Where would we absorb that 40,000? I mean, I'm assuming there would be a lot of little different places we would be pulling.
Well, the thing is there's really not.
But yeah.
The only place to absorb that allotment is local. Because there's no other funding sources for those positions. So it's pretty tight. So it would definitely hit local. It would hit as a local expense.
Okay, so we would have to go ask for more money.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's where we are with the current state of the union, I guess, on budget. Let's hope that they can get something passed. Brandon, I don't know if you've heard any more rumblings of where they are and whether they're going to get it done quickly.
Quickly, I don't know. I know that the governor has taken the approach of I want to be a collaborator. With that being said, that's what every governor that wasn't of the same party has said at the beginning of time. We'll see. My understanding of the real fight right now is between the House's expectations for higher raises versus what the Senate thinks they can pay for with financing and anticipated reductions in state funds, the amount that have the states went into its pockets to pay for hurricane relief in the western part of the state. I mean, there's some, serious balancing the checkbook issues that I think they've really got to come to terms on. But that's the gist of what I know.
And when from my experience, when those things happen, it means that they lag the budget, which means they potentially could break their own rules and do mini budgets and not give us a true budget until sometime later in the year, which is not really good for anybody. But I think Kendi shared IDEA's budgeting thought process just yesterday with me, which makes me think we're on that path because that's federal money. And they're saying they're going to do a continuing budget resolution and hold us flat at what they gave us last year until they can balance the books, so to speak, and what cuts are going to come from the federal side. Again, it's concerning. We're having the same thing with pre-K. Pre-K sent us our budget, said turn it in. They were working on that, getting ready to turn it in, and they put a stop to it and said, oh, okay, hold tight. Well, you don't really technically have a budget yet. Wait on us for further instructions. So we're seeing some of those lags in those programs. We did also hear, I don't know if I already mentioned it, but they were talking about cutting funding for All Head Start. So we have gotten some documentation saying that that's on the agenda, but do not be super concerned. I don't know how you can not be concerned, but that would be devastating for us if that happened. But those are those things where they were juggling all three shells: state, federal, pre-K, which is basically funneling through DHHS and through the state, and then Head Start, who would be federal. So, and then IDEA, again, that's federal, but it's a huge chunk of money for EC students.
Indeed it is.
Yeah, so that's a big deal. The next item on the agenda is they have released our state projections for our planning budgets. And if, so you can go down, Craig, if you'll go down to the bottom. I'm sorry, I didn't put this where you could actually go up. So we lost 8 teachers, 8 teaching positions. So there's some highlights there.
What slide are you on? I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I'm following along.
Yes.
What slide are you on?
Slide is the planning allotments.
Okay.
So that shows us what the state is going to give us for this year. We anticipated these losses in positions because our ADM, our average daily membership, went down from prior year to they're holding us harmless with last year's best one of 2 numbers. So they take a snapshot on the best one of 2 months from last year, and that's how they calculate our allotments. So, and they're kind of holding you harmless in there. So that works good for the people that are losing ADM because you get a year of planning. You know you went down. You get a year before you have to start really cutting. But for people that are growing, and for me, this is a first for us where we actually lost ADM. And it seems to be in our kindergarten class. That's where and it's the second year of loss in kindergarten. So we are seeing the trend upward now as we're monitoring that. So hopefully that's over and we're past that hump, and we're hoping to be back to positive growth, which will get us some of these positions back. 8 teaching positions is no small thing for us, right? And then another item on there, and because it's split, our low wealth money, which is that basically $500,000 reduction. That's a trend we've seen through the past 2 years. Last year, it was like $1 million we lost. This year, we only lost $500,000, and that is directly related to our county tax rates, and then also what the county gives us in local appropriations. So we did not take as big a hit this year as last year because, if you remember, the county gave us more money locally, which means that we're trending on the right path. But it's a slippery slope, right? Because if they increase the tax rate, then this could get us out of this whole allotment altogether, and that's almost $3 million. So when we're talking about things, it's kind of a balancing act, right? Growth is good. Tax increases, tax rates increases are good for the county, but we will have to manage these things accordingly to make sure that we're talking with the county when they do something so that we know, right? So ultimately, we either have to absorb that loss or the county has to pick up increasing our revenue when we come to them for the budget. But right now, we're in a better place than we were last year because it's only $500,000. So all of these negative entries for the state budget the majority of them have a direct correlation with loss in ADM. So, just so you are aware of that. And hopefully we get that back, best 1 or 2 this school year when our ADM goes up. Any questions on that? It's kind of difficult.
When would the official number for that be? At the 10th day of school or something like that?
The 20th day, so they at the 20th day, we'll send in that report, and that's when it'll be.
Official.
It typically takes them a couple months to shore up those numbers. And with like Infinite Campus changes, they've been a little bit slower because they just want to make sure that they confirm that those numbers are correct. So, I can assure you that myself, Melissa Wilson, and Kevin Taylor have met with every principal on what their allotments are, where they are, how we've balanced, if we're going to lose any positions. We're in a good place because we've kind of been reserved, but not too reserved that it's actually harming our schools. But we have our finger on that. We're going to make sure that, like you will see in the next budget, in the budget request item next, that we address those shortfalls of those 8 teachers. We've worked really closely with the principals. There's a lot of work been done on the budget process. Our last place that we ever want to feel the loss of positions is in the classroom. We want to make sure that our priority is to make sure that our classrooms and our schools are our priority. So we can assure you that we're doing that work to make sure that that's happening. Any other questions related to that? Okay, so the next thing is the local budget proposal. So here's our first pass at the local budget request. We're bringing this to you all so you can give us some feedback on that. We did not just come up with this on our own. We met with every stakeholder. We met with principals. We met with budget directors. Parent Advisory Committee, you guys happened to be here the day that we met with Parent Advisory Committee. I was very impressed. Not only did they give us feedback there, but they gave me written feedback. They went back to their schools and asked for feedback. So all of those things are included in these requests. These are our top requests. And this is just a draft. So if you guys have some concerns that you think are not listed on here that you want us to investigate, please do so. So again, we've talked about, you guys are aware we were going to ask for the 1% increase for certified and classified. We've talked about already the advanced teaching roles. So here are the other items. Additional teaching, STEM, STEAM, and art positions, 5 of them. So our goal there is, I'm not sure how much you guys are aware that the counselors and the media people are included in their rotation in daily classes. So they're not actually being able to teach or do media and do counseling 100%. So these additional STEM and STEAM positions will allow them to be out of the rotation as much as we can get them out so that they can actually focus on counseling and in the media, right? So that is an investment that we feel value in. The next one is like a student support teaching position. Student support school administration, that's 2 APs. Surf City E and M split an AP, and you guys know their numbers are high. So it's time to try to add to them to kind of reduce those loads. A huge thing that kind of bubbled to the top was receptionists. Right, so 6.5 positions across the district, and that is a lot of money, but it's value added for security purposes, for just the harmony of student interaction, parent interaction, all of those things. That's kind of, I liken that to kind of like your child nutrition worker or your bus driver. That's the first person that people see, right? So we need that to be able to get to the next level at our schools, to be able to provide that. So that is something big that we saw. If you want to explain the numbers, the first proposed increase to maintain, that 2.3 million, that includes the increased cost of retirement and hospitalization. And it includes a 3.8% inflationary cost. First time we've ever done that, but we need to start being true to what is really going on in our lives, and that's not going to catch us up, but it's going to at least kind of keep us even keel for our ask. The additional $2 million are those items that are below. And, you know, last year they asked us to kind of bullet out the items so that it would be easier for them, if they didn't have that money, to pick and choose which ones they could support. So do you guys have any questions or concerns or anything that you would like us to, and it doesn't have to be like right now, you can think about it and get back to us too.
I think everything that you've got up there right now, the bulleted items, are definitely things that we can justify. And I'm sure if we thought about it well, I'm sure we could add to the list.
We have a huge list.
I'm
I
sure
want
you
to
do.
think that this is all inclusive. We're just trying to be realistic. And I am very thankful for the county and the support that they gave us last year in our local appropriation, and the support
Agreed.
they just gave us with our individual ask for Chromebooks and radios and bus increases. So we've had a really good relationship with county manager, finance officer, and kind of building and talking about these things in advance. We want to ask for everything, but we also know that their resources are limited too. So we want to try that planned and phased approach. Most of these items are phased. So this, of course, APs, counselors, each year we will try to increase those support positions as needed. Okay, so the next thing is the capital outlay. That one looks very short and sweet. You guys have the capital outlay, the CIP schedule. And that kind of gives us the basis to move forward with our ask each year. That, again, splits out our cost over 5 years. So we have a 5-year plan. This is the first year of the 7 million ask from the 2.9. That's a huge jump, but they ask us to give them the list. We have the list. We are working from that plan. That was no small feat. That will be a living document, so it will be moving. If you have a copy of it, we have things that we've already scratched through, taken off, finished now, started something else. So we have priorities. So that's a huge number, a 10.8 number from a 2.9. But they asked, and we're giving it to them. So, hopefully we'll make progress on that as well. Any questions or concerns? Yes.
I was just gonna say, what type, and you may or may not know, what type of things are on our capital outlay?
It's a lot of
Maintenance.
infrastructural support, roofing that is critical, and HVAC that's critical in a number of schools. When you get into, I guess Mr. Taylor, you can jump in, but when you get into the control mechanism, some of our schools have 3 or more different controls, just because of the age of
Buildings.
the units, and it's not consistent.
Right.
And so there are different brands all hooked in, and so it does create issues with our schools, especially when it comes to maintenance and repair of those very old and outdated items. But so that's a bulk of it. And of course, we have to look at also things like refurbishment of restrooms and that have just not been done over a number of years. And that,
Okay.
we do, if you remember, we did pass that, for just some architectural fees and that, smaller projects, LS3P would be our preferred vendor there and is working with us on a number of different projects inside of our schools.
Really
It's a
needed.
very diverse list. So we have multiple tabs. We have like deferred maintenance, we have HVAC replacement, we have technology, we have regular maintenance, we have transportation, we have athletics. We will be including even arts in that list as well, like fine arts, so that we can now start putting everything on one schedule. So that we can continue chipping away. When you only have limited amount of money, the plan makes the difference, so that we can make sure we spread it around and we don't get back into the same habits of one place being really bad. Or we can kind of spread that around, and we can also prove to taxpayers and to the county. Because ultimately, everything at the schools, the maintenance, comes from the county. That support, we do not have any state funding. We have applied for funding as needed, so we've got lottery repair renovation money that we can use, and we are using it for facilities. Head Start is putting in a new pre-K modular. That was a grant. So we are doing our part to look at grants and trying to find all alternative funding sources. But all of that will be housed on this list so that we can prove that we can be completely transparent on all of our needs and what we've done to try to meet those needs.
I do know that the state is also looking at increasing their funding for facilities across the state of North Carolina above what it currently is, because many districts still have gone untouched by the state funding.
Yeah, that is a priority for them, because we think we're in really bad shape, but there's tons of districts that have have very little tax base on the local side, and they have aging schools and no way to address those issues. So they have, like in this repair and renovation fund, over the last 2 years, they've continued to increase that funding. So hopefully, down the road, they're looking at
Trickle
ways to
into Pender
support.
County schools.
Right.
That's what we want.
That's what we're
Right,
hoping.
right.
Yes, ma'am.
And, okay. And that's all I have. So if you guys we will be doing a presentation to the county May 1st,
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock, with these budget requests. So if you guys have anything that you want us to change or update, or if you feel like something's more of a priority, please give us your input. We want to make sure we go there with everybody's hearts and minds clear, with that all ask that we could potentially ask for or priorities are covered. And we thank you for your support and involvement in this process as well. Thank you all.
Ms. Nellen, I did have one comment. I just wanted to say thank you and your staff. I know this is no small feat, what you guys do for us every year, getting this budget together and this presentation that, as you said, shortly we're going to be making to the county commissioners. And like I said again, we can't do it without y'all, and y'all do a stellar job for us, and I just want to say thank you.
No, thank you. And we certainly have had lots of input this year, and I appreciate all parties coming to the table with open minds. You'd be surprised that people come and actually say, I can give up this to get this, or I can let another school have this because I don't. And it's hashtag one Pender. I mean, it touches my heart to know that they
team
come to the
mentality.
table. That's right. Yep.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am, thank you. Okay, on to number 4, 4.1, artificial intelligence. Mr. Kevin Taylor.
Good morning. Glad you guys are here. I'm probably going to defer a lot of this to Mr. Lawson because it's more in his realm than mine, to be honest with you. But the actual summary lists a couple of policies that we need to take a look at as we delve into the AI policy realm. So just to kind of refresh everyone's memory about what AI is. It's the generative artificial intelligence. It's an AI program. Several of them are out there that can be thought of as an educational tool, but also can be misused, just like any other educational tool that's out there. So we have drafted, mostly Craig, Mr. Lawson has drafted several policies regarding possible changes that need to be made for safeguarding student privacy, academic integrity, and ethical technology use. For years, we've had a technology ethics policy that has been outlined in our usage agreements with students and staff. This is probably just another step in that process. Mr. Lawson, if you want to pull up your presentation, we can kind of hit the main points in that. Sure. If you have any questions, we can certainly go through that as well as we discuss with the board. Yeah. Mr. Macon and Mr. Lawson have developed this over the course of time. We have presented this, or they have presented this to parents on the parental advisory committee. Presented it to several staff members, had kind of not an open house, but a town hall meeting online where teachers were invited, staff members were invited. It is pretty interesting what is available out there. It just kind of gives you a description of what AI does. It's out there, it's being used a lot. We're trying to get out ahead of this as much as we can so that we can have a plan to train our teachers, train our staff members, train our students. What AI is not. These are things in the realm of technology that really is not traditionally considered AI. So it's important to know what it's not before you get into what it actually is. It's rapidly evolving. If you see this graph here at the bottom, just the fact that it's starting to rise as quick as it is. The technology tools that are out there for AI are getting better and better and more accurate. The original AI programs that were out were very inaccurate. You may type in a question and it would send you completely inaccurate information, similar to what Google does sometimes. I found this was important. Leaders who are hiring candidates will actually, with AI skills or without, most individuals that are hiring, most leaders that are hiring individuals are looking for some level of AI use. I don't think we're going to change our stance on we need humans as well. Trying to get to, Craig, jump in here if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, you know, a key thing, and it was kind of timely, after our last meeting with the policy committee, there was an executive order that came out about AI use in the schools, and I'm not sure if you heard about that in the news, but it speaks to the fact that from the top down, we're seeing that there is a concern that, you know, we can meet the demands of the future, and, you know, especially as it relates to competitiveness globally when it comes to the development and use of generative AI tools. So all the way from, you know, the highest level of government down to the local level, folks are seeing how kind of disruptive generative AI is becoming, and the importance of us kind of addressing that within our education system. So there's going to be, it looks like, some national competition as it relates to AI use in that executive order, which was really interesting to see. We do have some school districts around us that have already adopted some policy. So we're not necessarily the first to look at this. I think it was smart. We took kind of like a wait and see approach a little bit. We wanted to make sure that we were being very thoughtful of the type of policy changes and the new policy that we were bringing before you. So we took a look at regionally, some AI policies have been adopted. The guidance from the state, DPI, as far as generative AI, and some policy adoptions and changes that they recommend, and put together what we think is something that will work well for Pender County. As you can see here, there is a huge disconnect between student use and parent perceptions. You know, so again, 70% of students are using AI, 60% are not aware of school AI rules, and 46% use AI without teacher permission. So one of the things that we want to accomplish, which will come after our policy development and adoption, is guidelines and support for both students, staff, and parents in regards to generative AI use. So providing training to all three of those groups, I think, is going to be vital to make sure that we are using generative AI in education ethically, with purpose, and with student safety as our top priority, to make sure that students are using it in a manner that's safe and productive. So some of the interesting things that we had conversations about, like with students in particular, was, are all of these AI tools the same, right? And in fact, they're not. If you go to the next slide, there are many AI tools that you can utilize, such as ChatGPT, where you technically, what you put into the prompts you use, what you put into that software, and the information that comes back from the AI are yours to use, right? So for example, with ChatGPT, there are a lot of authors and people that actually publish the responses they get. It's not a copyright violation to use that information in that way, and they profit off of it. But there are other tools, like over to the right, the whale. Everyone looks at this and you're like, the whale, that's the cutest one. That's the icon, that's the chat, you know, GPT. Forget that, I want to use the whale, DeepSeek. But that's actually a product from China, where the rights, the safety rights, the data privacy is not necessarily at the level, or far from it, we'll say, as businesses that are operating here and primarily out of the United States. So with DeepSeek and some of these other foreign generative AI tools, we're really worried about the safety of those. And we want to make sure that our staff and students are aware of that as well, and they're not utilizing those things. We talk a lot about, and Mr. Taylor mentioned here earlier, the worry or fear that the information you're getting from the AI is going to be inaccurate, right? And that's definitely something we have to consider. One of the things we do with our staff is we ask them these two questions. We said, is blood blue inside the body in your veins? And then two, Romans used to use a room called the vomitorium to purge themselves so they could eat more. So we asked, is this true or is this false, right? We go to the next slide. It's fascinating to see that, again, this was a small group of staff we were having this conversation with, but 43% of those staff members thought that the vomitorium was in fact that, when it isn't. A vomitorium is actually a passage designed for rapid entry and exit of a large crowd in Roman amphitheaters and stadiums. And then 21% thought blue was actually, or blood, excuse me, was actually blue inside the body. It is not, okay? So those are two common, myths people think. And so it's this idea that even without the use of generative AI and AI tools, we often face things that are portrayed as being true or factual, and they aren't. So it really is just kind of an exercise to speak to the importance of being critical thinkers, right? And making sure that you're evaluating what's being told to you to seek what is actually truth. So we know, Gen AI, which we use to shorten generative AI, it's going to give wrong answers. Just like, again, like Mr. Taylor said, when you search Google, sometimes you'll get inaccurate information. One of the really important skills, and it's been this way for a long time, is teaching our children and our staff to be critical thinkers, to do proper research and evaluate what's being presented in front of them. So they call that as a hallucination. It's just kind of funny. They call that when AI gives you incorrect information. So again, the motivations behind why we are now looking at developing guidelines and policy is we want to make sure that we manage AI integration responsibly. We want to prepare students for tech-driven futures. We want to support our educators, and we want to address equity and access gaps for our students, okay?
I think this is where the policy gets, or the potential policy, needs further review at some point. I can imagine, let's say a child that is LD in writing. They can put together their thoughts on paper, but the essay to turn in needs to be a 5-part essay. They can put their thoughts down, they can put this into an AI assisting tool and have that tool put it in a proper essay format. Is that acceptable? I'm not here to say yes or no. It's a question we need to figure out and answer. We can treat it as if we are, every classroom that we have in this district and probably across the state has time when computers are needed. And the teachers will often say, this is not a computer activity. Please shut your laptops. So is there a way to go into this plan where, okay, this is AI specific. Welcome to use it on this step, but this step, no AI. Same way with calculator in math class. Sometimes you're using a calculator, sometimes you're not. The teacher dictates or prescribes what tools are available to the individual students. Not a whole lot different than if you're learning or teaching how to research topics for interest or do a scholarly articles. The teacher may guide them to go to a specific set of 3 resources to start with and then expand from there. So that's what we're trying to figure out, is the balance between the tool use and the improper use, and making sure that we support our educators in that process so that they can implement this in their classrooms.
Yeah, so some common themes that came out of these stakeholder roundtables, again, some shared concerns of, again, going back to exactly what Mr. Taylor was talking about earlier, over-reliance on AI, plagiarism, the need for digital responsibility, right? I don't think any of us want an approach where we're just opening the floodgates and students, we're saying, use AI for everything, right? That's not what we're saying. We know that that would be really irresponsible for us to do. So finding a way, again, a balance is key here, and what the appropriate balance is. So common skill suggestion, again, teaching students about how do we cite AI. You know, citation is going to change moving forward, right? It's a little bit of a different situation. Talking about digital literacy, judgment on when and why to use AI. Again, providing our staff tools on rubrics maybe for how they can identify for students what it is appropriate level of use for AI for certain assignments. And again, a vast majority may be, hey, we're not using AI at all on this, right? Positive things that were noted, it can be used for a creativity boost, time saving, accessibility for struggling learners. Again, how this tool, and a lot of folks, it's kind of interesting, fascinating to see how many more staff members have started to use AI in the last year. And it has just picked up tremendously. And again, seeing how these models have rapidly increased in their effectiveness. The AI tools are just so much more effective than they were even just a couple months ago. So again, parents' top concerns, access and equity, fear of job impact, policies, notable trends, right? They focused on fairness, future job impacts, and they wanted to make sure that we had clear school guidelines for their students. Some of them brought up some concerns about, when they apply for college and some of the tools at college level, and this has become kind of a more concerning recently is, colleges are using tools to identify if students are using AI, right, when they apply. And some of those tools are misidentifying that students are maybe plagiarizing when they aren't. And parents were very concerned about that, right? So that was a topic that came up. Student feedback, a lot of them, they were eager to learn about and how to use AI properly, right? But they were worried about risk too. They wanted to have clear boundaries. Sometimes they were like, my teacher's not really said if I can use it or not, so I'm not sure, how this falls into that. So they were concerned about that. And they were worried about their future. What are jobs gonna look like, right? Again, the landscape for jobs is gonna be vastly different, in 10 years. And then staff, we're really excited about how it could really help them to be creative and save time. One of the things our teachers, we just talked about, with budgets is always coming up, having enough teachers, having time for our teachers is always a concern. These tools give them time back. It allows them to plan more effectively. It allows them to create more engaging activities much quicker, right? Because they can utilize these tools to support them in thinking creatively, coming up with resources without taking nearly as much of their time as it maybe would in the past. So they're very excited about that. Again, but plagiarism was a big deal for them. They wanted help in how can we make sure that we're allowing students to use these tools safely, right? How are we blocking the bad ones, right? The ones that we don't want students to use or even staff to use, right? And they're concerned about that too. When you talk about they don't necessarily know, oh, DeepSeek, I shouldn't download this on my phone? Yeah, no, you don't want to, right? Your personal privacy is taking a hit when you use some of those tools. So again, the idea is to create some guidelines and resources for our staff. Again, we're here today to talk to you primarily about policy, but I just kind of wanted to express the idea is that we're taking this policy and we're actively going to make guidance and resources for our staff and students that will ensure that they're being educated using these responsibly and safely.
Notice there's a couple different breakdowns here, K-5 versus 612. The learning modules and learning modes are a little different by grade span. The one over here is for parents. We need to help educate our parents as well when it comes to what we are doing or choose to do with AI as a school system. I consider myself pretty handy around the house. I've gotten handier with the help of YouTube because there's a lot of videos out there that will show you how to change the air filter on your vehicle. And what used to cost $150 is now $5 for the filter, and you can do it yourself based on YouTube. So there are benefits to this, but there's also some downfalls that we have to work through and figure out. And that's what the policies and the revisions to our existing policies that we are working through will help us do. So, any questions about AI? I'm going to defer them all to Craig.
We got Mr. Macon back there, he can help out.
And
if
Mr.
I struggle.
Macon, yeah.
I will say, before the board, I will say that Mr. Lawson, Mr. Macon have already gone out into our community and also done some AI training and work at, I think the Rotary was the last one that you all did, and it was well received by our community. And we will continue to do that out and about as part of our work to help support our community. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. That was a lot that I know took a lot of research, and clearly y'all are thinking through it.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
So thank
really
you.
Craig and Puka.
Something that a lot of us, I mean, we know something about, but not a lot about. So I appreciate that.
And I will add, I also attended the Coastal Rotary presentation, and so many questions and comments afterwards. So it's something that is really, I felt, you guys did a wonderful job engaging the community on that. I even walked away from it. There is so much to this. So I know that we're going, like I said, the presentation that you gave is what we saw at the Rotary Club, and it was a great way to scratch the surface. And you even acknowledged there was a lot more, a lot more coming. So I know these policies that AI will be affecting, I know that you guys are going to be reviewing these policies probably constantly as AI continues to grow and this technology continues to advance. So, but anyway, thank you. Appreciate all you're putting into it.
I would draw the board's attention while Craig's pulling up the slideshow for the dress code stuff. Just to give you an idea of the policies that we're looking at, they're in your packet. It's civility, integrity and civility policy, technology responsible use policy, technology to educational program policy, and then the last one, 4.1E, is a drafted policy that's new. This is specific to Gen AI guidance. So it's a policy we haven't had before.
6 policies.
We would definitely want this to go before Brandon and his team before we go, because it is such a new policy and a new concept that we want to make sure we're touching the bases that we need to touch. So, if it's okay with the board members, I combined the student dress and staff professional appearance into one slideshow,
Right.
so that we can kind of go through that together.
4.2 and 4.3.
4.2 and 4.3.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So just to kind of draw your attention, this has been a pretty long process through surveys with staff and students and parents. We also combined or reviewed the following policies that are close by us: New Hanover, Brunswick, Oslo, our current Pender policy, our School Board Association policy as well. That is the School Board Association policy is a drafted policy. They have a draft policy for pretty much every policy we have that we can modify and use on our behalf. What got us onto this topic is really the time frame of when these things, if you look at our current policy, 2010 was the last time it was revised. 2023, 2023, 2023. Those are the for the staff ones especially. The similarities, when we compared and contrasted the 5 policies that we reviewed, the purpose was generally the same. Professional attire rang through quite a bit within each policy. Supervisor authority, all the policies recognize that supervisors and administrators are tasked with interpreting some of that information, and also allowing for accommodations, reasonable accommodations for religious beliefs, things of that nature, heritage. And then at the forefront of everything we do is safety and health. policies stress that dress code must comply with safety and health standards. This becomes pretty specific when you get into the different teaching positions that we have. The easiest one to recognize is a physical education teacher versus a classroom teacher, what they would typically wear during the day. But it goes further than that. If you think about CTE classes, carpentry, things of that nature, they're probably not going to wear a tie that gets stuck in a piece of machinery. So taking all that into consideration. Some additional similarities, specifically, or specificity, I should say. Pender and Brunswick both have a detailed list of inappropriate attire, like jewelry, flip-flops, and hats. Other policies are more general, focused on broader guidelines. Casual days, Pender's the only one that explicitly mentions casual Friday. I actually looked at several more policies to see if I could find that. I think Pender's pretty unique in that term. It does allow for, dress down days for a purpose. Typically, most policies out there for staff attire have a administrator or leadership or supervisor designee to, if the school wants to raise funds for a child who's suffering from cancer, to wear jeans and contribute $1 or $5, whatever it is. Gender neutrality has hit the North Carolina School Board Association, and I think these policies that have been updated recently were updated about the same time that the School Board Association came out with their most recent draft. So they have included some verbiage in there about that. We currently don't have it in ours. Neither does Onslow. The differences, the policy development's a little bit different. The guidelines for within the policy itself are a little bit unique to us. The New Hanover County and North Carolina School Board Association includes some specific legal references such as American with Disabilities Act and Title VII of Civil Rights. Pender County does not have those currently in our policy due to probably the fact that it hasn't been updated in a while. Disciplinary action. All policies except Pender County explicitly mention that repeated violations may result in disciplinary action up to and including dismissal. Pender does not have that in our policy currently. The synopsis, pretty much all 5 policies deal with professional attire. They deal with being, we want to be able to tell our teachers from our students. I think that's pretty common across every policy that was reviewed, and in my experience in other counties as well. Ours does stand out for its detailed list of inappropriate attire and explicit use of casual days, as listed as a Friday. So the couple of things on the survey we received back is these are the 2 biggest items they wanted to potentially have consideration for removal. Piercings and flip-flops were the 2 that staff most requested for us to, or for you guys to take a look at for possible consideration of removal. Our specific recommendations at this point would be to, would be to include the legal references in our new policy draft, which would include the Disabilities Act and the Title VII Civil Rights Act. Includes specific processes and consequences for repeated violations. If you notice, remember, we're the only policy that didn't have that in there. And then come to a balance between specificity and broader guidelines. Casual Friday for jeans versus principal oversights for specific events. So those are our recommendations at this point. What we're going to have to do as a next step, which I'll get to in a minute as a recommendation, is to put these drafts back in front of principals again. Once you guys have given feedback either to us here or individually, as Lisa was talking about, once we can get those in there to be able to share with the principals, we'll move forward on that. Now on to student dress. I re-reviewed the same policies that were also in our neighboring counties and the current school board association policy. Again, notice the difference in the dates. Ours is kind of lagging behind for review. Basically, the similarities are all 5 policies have a prevailing approach to most of the other dress code policies in North Carolina that we've looked at. Prohibited items, they typically deal with anything that's disruptive, provocative, obscene, or endangers health and safety, which is pretty much standard across all schools, especially the ones we reviewed. Flexibility is common. A lot across the state, allowing for accommodations for religious beliefs or medical conditions. You know, if a child is coming to school with a cast on their leg, their shorts might be a little shorter than mid-thigh. So, you know, just having the wherewithal to, you know, make exceptions when exceptions are needed. And then a compliance period. This was something that's really built into all of them. If a student comes out of dress code, there are disciplinary consequences to be assigned, but having a little bit of common sense and knowing that the child is there, offer them a change of clothes, let them stay in school, give them a reasonable amount of time to correct their behavior or to correct what they're wearing so they can stay in school. In other words, don't automatically send them home. Has been a similarity in most of the policies. The difference again, ours is our current policy is very specific, detailed. New Hanover and North Carolina School Board Association provide some general guidelines, which are becoming increasingly common across the state. They don't get into specific, you know, items as much as we do. Economic considerations for dress down days, things of that nature, to raise money for special groups, special interests of the school. And then the gender considerations as well. Clothes are not gender specific. So, and that's something that we don't have in our policy, but there are a couple of policies out there still that have males and females that can wear certain items. And I'm not getting into who, but there are some out there that still do that. The differences, individual school authority. Pender County Schools does allow principals to mandate a more restrictive dress code in individual schools. New Hanover does allow schools to enact standard uniforms or dress codes with approval, and then other policies do not explicitly mention individual school authority. I think that's something we need to maybe take a look at and examine a little bit further. I think it speaks against the One Pender initiative that we're trying to do by having schools have different dress codes than others, especially in the same grade span. Economic considerations, again, the differences there, and then headgear policies. While some policies specifically ban headgear, others don't mention it, reflecting the varied approaches to this issue across the school systems that we work in. Synopsis is it's there for you to read, but I mean, all the policies aim to maintain a conducive learning environment, one that's safe. Most of them mention things like specific game colors or things of that nature that would be prohibited. They generally align with prevailing school dress codes in North Carolina. Ours is not terribly off base the way it's written. That's not the purpose of doing this, is to make sure that we have the most up-to-date one. And then the feedback, I found this interesting from the feedback from the staff and the students. Student feedback on preference, 33% of our students thought our current dress code is fine the way it's written. 40% like the proposed policies or the policies that were, you know, the other ones that were out there. The other school district policies were insignificant. Middle school feedback, again, 33% that ours is fine. So a third of our kids or students felt like our current policy was just fine. 40% opposed, or proposed policy. The most interesting one, or the last two, staff feedback, 25% on current policy, and they really like, staff really liked the one that was proposed out there, which was a conglomeration of less specific terminology and things of that nature. Parent feedback, 37% proposed, like the proposed policy. That was really the only significant measure, I felt like. When you look at 37% and the other ones were equally divided among the choices from parents. So it looks like, for the most part, parents are welcoming a policy that may not be quite as specific, still maintaining some expectations in that policy, but also not as specific as it has been in the past. These are just the high school feedback, depending on which one they like the best. And you can see this was high school student feedback, and these pieces of the pie are pretty similar. Synopsis generally aligns with prevailing school system trends, just like the staff one does. The recommendations would be very similar to what the recommendations were from the staff one. You know, include those legal references, come to a balance between specificity and broader guidelines. This is an excerpt from our current policy. Shirts and tops must be long enough to meet at the waistband of pants, shorts, skirts at all times. No mid-dress, cleavage, or underwear shall be visible at any time. Versus something that may draft it out to say students shall wear clothing that covers from shoulder to mid-thigh. So you're accomplishing the same thing without mentioning obvious things up there sometimes. And that's it. Any questions about the student or staff dress code, kind of where we are at the moment? What we're trying to get to is an updated policy first and foremost, whether that, or at least a reviewed policy. So we've reviewed it, we've had the time to go through it. I would like to spend some time, with you guys, getting feedback from you, either here or individually. We want something that can be enforceable and something that parents and students can have input on, which they've done. So taking all those things into consideration, our goal is still to get this done when school lets out, so that parents can and students too can prepare for the following school year when they buy their school clothes. So that's kind of our goal. Any burning questions at the moment?
I'll be calling you.
Okay.
We'll talk about it.
Sounds good.
All right.
Can I just, I
Yes.
mean, we'll talk about that later too, but I just have one comment. Talking to the principals in District 1, the only comment about staff was they felt like the nose piercings was a barrier to them being able to hire some qualified staff.
And there's a balance there, and that's, I think the reason why policies like dress code are difficult to nail down is because there's opinions about that out there, and not everybody shares the same opinion. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My next section is the strategic plan update. Some of the information that you will see, and two of our members here today have been on the committee, but I'll kind of run through this pretty quickly. Our strategic plan is, I mentioned at the strategic plan committee meeting that we're kind of getting into the short rows of developing this thing and rolling it out. With our help from RTI, I can't thank them enough for, one, keeping us on track, and two, helping us develop this plan over the course of about a year. Just the timeline we are sitting, right there at the very end. So we're presenting here to the school board. Our goal is to take this into May for approval, and that's going to be the recommendation for our next school board meeting. We were asked to gather as much community voice as we could. This is something that I think we can be proud of as a district. Our structural approach was, one, developing that steering committee. Was made up of teachers and parents and community members and leadership and principals and everybody that could be a part of our family was invited to participate. And then we focused on focus groups as well: parents, students, principals, teachers, classified staff, community stakeholders, faith community, businesses. All those individuals provided feedback. We also had some additional data gathering in terms of questionnaires, some outcome data, and some research. When I say outcome data, it was looking at academic goals and academic components, as well as where our CIP is standing at the moment in terms of facilities. All those things were taken into consideration. Our retention rates, our attrition rates for staff. This is amazing. So, the steering committee, this is a commitment to the plan. So I'm just going to draw your attention down here and not bore you to tears, but when we add up the number of people and the number of hours just spent in meetings and 1-hour conversations and a design session, you're talking about 703 hours. That's 30 days of their time. Now, that's 30 days, 24 hours a day, not 38-hour days. Just to draw your attention to the amount of time that was spent putting this in. This doesn't include Brandy's time, my time, RTI's time. This is just community and staff input on this process. So when we were tasked with finding, making sure that we had commitment to the plan and also that we had feedback through the process, I believe we knocked it out of the park there. It'd be about 3 months worth of time. It was 8-hour work days, but we don't work 8-hour work days, so we just went with 24 hours. Phase 2, community engagement. So after we created the draft, we then sent it back out to the community and held a virtual town hall meeting to discuss specific feedback. Did we capture what we wanted to capture? Did we capture what you wanted us to capture? So we had 55 participants in that and 115 respondents to the survey. Overwhelmingly, 90% either agreed or strongly agreed that the priorities were important areas for PCS. I will draw your attention to, these are some specific quotes that we received. I like this one at the bottom. I would still be teaching if this was implemented. I think, our customer base is not only our students, but also our staff. So I just, when that showed up, I made sure that popped up in the slide. When I read that, I'm getting little chill bumps now thinking about it. Recurring themes at the top of the community's mind. Obviously, some of these are probably not new to our discussions. Compensation, facilities, class sizes, equal opportunity, not just equal outcomes, parent and families being a partner in the work, and then transportation challenges. Those are things that we've seen and we anticipated seeing in this research and development, and we have certainly seen those in spades. Potential areas for additional communication. A lot of this centers around helping staff, students, parents, our community that doesn't sometimes speak educational ease. Understanding that 49.9% to 70% on academic goals is a realistic goal over 5 years. So the question, is it realistic? It certainly is. We're not going to try to do that all at once. There'll be benchmarks along the way. Attendance, what's best for my family. Balancing those two things. We've, having a little bit of grace when something happens that needs to be addressed individually. And then how are we communicating our progress? Speak to whoever's listening or watching later. 5 years is too long to wait for results. You won't have to wait 5 years. The results will be tabulated each year. as we move through this process to ensure that we're reaching our targets. The draft plan, it's a really neat schematic of where we have been and where we currently are now. I won't bore you to read it to you, but it's just a 30,000-foot view down to the ground level. And we're inching into the ground level approach as we speak. These are our vision, mission, and core values. I think it's important to understand that empowering each student to discover and pursue their path to success would become our new vision. Our new mission would be PCS will provide learning experiences that equip every student to achieve their potential and enrich their community. Our core values are excellence, integrity, innovation, and connection. They kind of encompass a range of about 9 that we came up with as a group, but we narrowed those down into 4 and embedded components of the other 5 into them to make them heard. These are our priority areas, our goals. 1 is academic excellence, investing in staff, investing in infrastructure, and investing in community. Again, I won't read all this to you, but it does list some of the goals that we have established as part of this plan. Our next steps, hopefully, provide feedback. I'm able to meet with you guys individually or 2 by 2. Board presentation for approval is scheduled for May 13th. And then the biggest component of this is developing the implementation and monitoring plan at the bottom. That will take place during May and June, and a little bit in July, as we have our leadership retreats, as we put pen to paper, because we know these goals and these overarching priority areas may look different at different schools. So we want each school to be able to adopt their own benchmarks and things of that nature to work through their school improvement with them. Any questions about the strategic plan? I personally want to thank everybody that came out and participated, did all the surveys and did all the things, because it was very beneficial to us to hear from as many people as we could, including a couple board members that were served on it. So, any questions?
No, I'm just gonna say I love it.
Yeah, it was a lot of work and a lot of fun.
Appreciate the hard work.
I think Randy was a big part of it as well as our directors and our principals who came together to work through the details of it. So, very proud of the work and ready to put it to work and implement it.
I would encourage board members to at least go back to this presentation, take a look at it, and please do give him a call, set up some time to talk to him about it, because this is a big deal.
It's
This
our-
is
yeah.
steering us where we're going, and I'd very much like to have all board members have some input on that.
It's our compass
Thank
point.
you.
It's our roadmap. It's,
Indeed.
and this is a living document. If we get 2 years down the road and some legislation comes out that we need to change some things, then we will. It's not we're not going to stick this on a bookshelf and forget about it.
Every decision document should be consulted.
Right. We are currently working on also a public-facing webpage to be able to put out there as well. So, be able to get that out relatively soon. The only other thing I had on my list is 4.5, proposed meeting schedule for 25-26. The dates are there for review. We tried to steer clear of, holidays and spring breaks and things about Christmas and things of that nature. The CAL meetings, or Committee of the Whole meetings, will be held 2 weeks prior to the regular board meetings, and the regular board meetings are scheduled on the second Tuesday of the month, save November due to Veterans Day. And I think that's the only one that was affected by a holiday, the way the calendar fell this year. So that would actually be I think it's the third Tuesday. Times are 9:30 for committee of the whole and 6 p.m. for board meetings. I will bring this for approval at the board meeting. If you have updates or would like to suggest any other alternate dates or whatever, just pick up the phone and call. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Yep, have a good day.
You too. Okay, next on the agenda is number 5, Student Services, 5.1, Policy 4125, first read. Mr. Taylor?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. For Student Services, Student Support Services Division, we have a couple of policies we would like for our Board of Education to consider amending. The first policy is 4125, which is our homelessness student education policy. There are a few minor changes regarding language, such as career and technical education would replace vocational and technical education, and academically or intellectually gifted replaces gifted and talented. But more so, you'll see a significant amount of red throughout the remainder of the policy, as the state policy has been changed 4 times since ours was last amended. We would like to move closer to the state board policy and just be more closely aligned holistically. Are there any questions?
I have none.
Ms. Beal and Ms. Radabaugh spent a great deal of time reviewing that policy to ensure that, again, we are more closely aligned. Right. And the second policy for consideration is Policy 4353. This is regarding our long-term suspension, 365-day suspension and expulsion policy. In the past, we have operated under, or we're currently operating under a tribunal where we oftentimes have to invite administrators from various schools to participate in a hearing panel. This has led to oftentimes some concerns regarding consistency of administering the policy over time, and we would like to change that, again, to be more closely aligned with the state policy, but also be more consistent in those persons who are hearing the appeals from our parents and students. We would replace the tribunal with the Director of Student Services and the Chief Officer of Student Services as the appeal hearing committee. Any questions regarding that? I would like to recommend that this be placed on first read for the next Board of Education meeting. All right,
Yes, sir.
questions? All right,
None.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, Instructional Services, EC Nursing Contract, Dr. Sawyer.
Good morning, Board. The first thing we have up is an EC nursing contract for next year. That's for a one-on-one nursing student at South Topsail High School. Can I just go through the first 3? The second one is an EC contract. It's a nursing contract for 3 students at various schools that need intensive support. That's through Maxim. And the third one is an EC contract for an ASL interpreting services for a one-on-one student for next year as well. Any questions about those?
I have none.
The next thing we have up is our CTE plan update. It has to be updated on a yearly basis. So I'm going to ask Mr. Bates to come up and give you an update for the CTE plan.
Thank you. Good morning,
Good morning.
ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to give you an update for our CTE local plan. The local plan has to be written every school year going into the next school year. And some of the data that you'll see is from the previous school year because we don't receive that data until the spring of that school year because we're still in this school year. So it makes sense for that data to be there. So, is this, can I move it with this?
Not work with a PDF.
Okay.
Just look at me out.
Thank you. Thank you. Pender County School CTE mission is to equip students with the tools to become enrolled, enlisted, or employed. Upon graduation, our strategies are to increase our industry recognized credentials, expand work-based learning to include internships, pre-apprenticeships, and even externships, and align our course offerings with our workforce demands. Just to note, 98% of our CTE, you can leave it, it's fine. 98% of our CTE concentrators who graduated last school year graduated, enrolled, enlisted, or employed. So amazing stat. PCS CTE goals to produce a qualified workforce pipeline, improve our graduation rates by increasing our CTE concentrators and our CTE majors. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a later slide. Aligning our post-secondary pursuits to our CTE concentration areas, increasing CTE program enrollment and completion, increasing our industry recognized credentials, and increasing positive post-secondary placement, which is enrolled, enlisted, employed. So accountability focus, CTE concentrators. We always talk about CTE concentrators a lot. I like to say CTE concentrators make the world go round. They do, in fact, increase graduation rates. The national stat for CTE concentrators graduating on time in their four-year cohort is 97%. Pender County School CTE has normally been about 98% every year. And so it increases graduation rates, it increases positive placement for enrolled, enlisted, and employed. Students are more likely to earn credentials if they're a CTE concentrator, and so that's why we push for it. Also, we want to push a little bit further, and so we want to push past that CTE concentrator threshold, if we can, into what we call a CTE major. A CTE major is a student who completes a pathway of study, and so they're gonna almost guarantee to graduate in their four-year cohort. They're gonna be enrolled, enlisted, or employed. They're gonna earn credentials, but we also want to add on an experience, that work-based learning experience with an internship, some type of entrepreneurial experience, some type of pre-apprenticeship, so that they can make a more informed decision. And so we're pushing for that as well. Here's just some numbers for 3-year trend from the past 3 years for the number of CTE concentrators who have graduated in those 4-year cohorts. As you can see, the number of concentrators has increased yearly. We went from 30% of our graduating students being CTE concentrators to 46.3% to 48.2% of our graduating seniors being CTE concentrators. Graduation rates, we already discussed that. What you see in the orange is the state of North Carolina. The blue is Pender County Schools, who does really well with graduation rates. We stay above 90%. And then just the CTE concentrators in Pender County Schools. This is a stat that I am very proud of. And it's something that, you know, we've looked into and we've been working on for the past couple of years. And this is a stat about our students and well, number one, our proof of learning, which are our exams. And so, as you can see, we have improved significantly just overall in our proof of learning status, our proficiency for our exams. And so we went from just a little under 80% to almost 90% of our students being proficient and being mastery, which shows mastery in their content, but not only just overall with a special focus on our students who are in special populations. And so individuals with disabilities, grown. Economically disadvantaged, there's growth. English learners, there's growth. Students with disabilities, there's growth. And non-traditional concentrators, growth in that area as well. So that's huge. Credential comparison. Over the past 3 or 4 years, we've grown tremendously. Last year, we had over 8,000 credentials. The year before that, we had over 5,000. We're trending to be at about 8,000 this year, but our attainment rate is trending to be much higher. We're probably going to attain them at about 85 to 87% attainment rate, which is off the charts. And that's what we really want. We really want that attainment rate to be high. You know, we want to earn a great number of them, but that attainment rate is what really matters. Career development plans, that was new legislation that was implemented this school year. It's House Bill 259, says all middle school students must initiate a career development plan before being promoted to high school. That was initiated this school year, and then starting next year, their career development plan must be updated before their 10th grade promotion, okay? As of March 19th, I'm happy to announce that Pender County Schools was 100% compliant to this legislation. And so every student that's moving up to the high school has initiated their career development plan. Just some enhancements in CTE with our programming. We're continuing to add Paxton Patterson labs, those career exploration labs in the middle schools. Cape Fear Middle School was our latest addition. Next year, we're looking to add at Pender Lee, and then we'll be complete. We'll be done. We'll have all the middle schools done. Pender High School ag expansion. We got a tractor. We got our barn. We're getting us some animals, and so just that's amazing. Our entrepreneurship courses are offering, or they have what we call school-based enterprises, and so it's kind of like a school spirit store or a swag store where students are making and they're creating school swag. I mean, mouse pads, cups, hats, pens, you name it. They can make it in these maker spaces, and so that's been great. We're currently working on an MOU with Novi Health. Next year, we're offering a certified medical assistant course in all 3 of our high schools that would allow our students to graduate as certified medical assistants. Honors portfolios, we're revamping our honors portfolios processes with the help from Dr. Sawyer and Dr. Lee. And so that's just been a great collaboration so that we can offer more honors courses and ensure that we're offering them correctly. Career development plan implementation, we just talked about that, we're 100%. Next year, JROTC will be officially under the CTE umbrella. And so this year, we did a beta test. We call it onboarding year. We worked with them, we supported them, we included them in all things CTE. We just got better in CTE by adding ROTC. We have a partnership with an organization called Be Pro, Be Proud, and they have a huge 18-wheeler that they bring out that's full of VR simulations for career exploration. It took us 2 years to get we were on the waiting list for 2 years, but now that we're on, they have guaranteed us that they'll come back every semester. And so that's great. We had a shed and vote competition this year. And middle school credentials. They don't count in our number. They don't count in our attainment rate, but we do have schools that are offering middle school credentials, such as babysitting. There's a financial literacy. There's an entrepreneurship credential that's being offered, and they're getting a drone credential. We're looking to add more. And so just want to get them started as early as possible.
Mr. Bates,
Yes.
just sorry to interrupt, but next time you get the Be Proud, Be Pro,
Yes.
Be Pro, Be Proud,
Yes.
18-wheeler in, let us know.
Yes.
Because I was talking to some other board members, we would love to go out and see that if you don't mind.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
I'll send you an invite.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
Go-
no,
but-
no, that's good. Thank you. Priorities for Pender County School CTE this upcoming school year. Continue to increase enrollment and completion. Try to strategize ways that we can involve our middle schools in more career and technical student organizations, and strive for those pathway majors. Continue to provide professional development for our teachers. Continue to try to increase industry credentials just by looking at our offerings and seeing if all of our courses are offering those credentials for our students, if our students have those opportunities. Post-secondary placement is always a goal, so enrolled, enlisted, employed. the career development plan implementation, and then career pathway evaluation. So we want to make sure that our middle school, what we're offering in the middle schools are aligned with what we have at our high schools, which should be aligned with what's at the community college, which should be aligned with what our local workforce needs are. And so just trying to make sure that we're vertically aligned. And then regional labor market and our honors offerings. You have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say, Mr. Reeves and I finished our tour of all 3 high schools, and we saw some great things happening in your department, in the CTE departments, at all 3 schools. So I appreciate the hard work and finding those qualified people that are willing to do the work. And those kids were having a good time learning. You could tell it was just something different than being in a classroom all the time, and they loved it.
Thank you for that. The team, the teachers are truly amazing. Never seen a more willing group of individuals to just, they're all about student success. So that makes it great for everybody.
Well, and that what you just spoke is absolute truth. You and your staff have really elevated CTE here in Pender County Schools immensely, and cannot thank you enough. And also, I do know that you have really been working with our EC population to get them more involved and put on a CTE track. And again, that is something that it means a lot to me personally, but I know that all the other parents out there, it's a different situation whenever you have a child with a disability or a special need, and to make sure that there's even a career track for them going out of high school, it's huge. So again, I wanted to thank you for including EC in on that.
Thank you.
Board, any more questions?
Okay.
Okay.
The
Thank you, sir.
recommendation is just that we have a signature page for our local, and we just need it to be signed off by our board.
Yes, sir.
So we'll bring that, I guess, on the 13th.
Absolutely.
Thank
Please,
you.
thank you. Okay, 6.6, esports at Pender High School. Dr. Sawyer.
AIG.
AIG. I am so sorry. I got ahead of myself.
It's all right. It's all right.
Actually, board, would you mind a 5-minute recess? We have been sitting here for almost 2 hours. Would you mind a 5-minute recess? Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Macon, I hope you heard me in there, but as of right now, we are going to be calling a 5-minute recess. Thank you. everyone. We are back from a recess. At this time, we have 6.5, the AIG 25 through 28 plan. Dr. Sawyer.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'm going to invite Dr. Lee up to review the AIG plan. This is a plan that has to be done every 3 years. So it'll be a 3-year plan, and ours is coming up for 25 to 28.
Thank you. How you guys doing? Great. Awesome. All right, so first of all, our mission and what I want to highlight here is our AIG students are AIG all day, every day, not just when AIG specialist is in the building with them, but when they're in their classes, they're AIG all day. We have 6 goals that we set to accomplish with our plan, and it's recognizing our AIG and intellectual gifted students, enriching and extending our students, making sure we have opportunities for all students that are identified, whether they're K-12, whether they're 412, and regardless of ethnicities, cultures, or any other backgrounds, and to communicate what we're doing out to all our stakeholders. There's 6 standards that the state gives us to guide us and to write our plan, and I'm gonna give you just a snippet of those 6 standards. The first one is identification. We have identification at all grade level spans. Currently, there are 1,363 identified students, which is 12.4% of our total population. A student can refer themselves to be tested for AIG. It could be the parent, it could be a teacher, it could be a staff member. You guys may contact me and say, I've seen this kid, I've seen what they do, I think this kid may be gifted, I want to recommend this student for testing. Standard 2 is just programming, and it's just how our students are cluster grouped together. We try to group them with students who are identified with the same abilities as them. Some of our students are identified in math, some are identified in reading, some are just gifted, where they're just good with spatial sense and reasoning. Some of our students are twice exceptional, so they may be ML and gifted, they may be EC in an area and gifted in math. So this is the programming and what we do with our students. It's usually up to 1/3 of the students in one class. Standard 3 is curriculum, and what we do, we take our adopted curriculum, our core curriculum, and we extend it for our AIG students. And extension doesn't always mean a different content. Sometimes it's a different process, sometimes it's a different product, sometimes it's just a different environment for our students. In 6A, many of our students qualify for our high school courses in middle school. And in 9-12, it's always different offerings like our honors, our APs, our CCPs. And a lot of our students participate in our CAP program, which is a program that we started with Cape Fear Community College, where students stay in their traditional schools if they don't want to go to Pender Early College, and they'll earn an associate's degree. Personnel and professional development, AIG department is led by Dr. Sawyer, myself, and elementary is where we have most of our specialists, because in some of the schools, students are pulled to decrease the elective numbers, so they go with the AIG as specialists to get more enrichment. In middle school, Teresa Soul serves our middle school, and in high school, Angela Sakasis, who's our district secondary ELA coach, also serves our high school population of students, because it's dealing with a lot of AP, a lot of scholarships, and different opportunities, building their resumes. For professional development, I've outlined here some professional development opportunities for our staff, which serves our students, our schools, our teachers, and what we offer to our teachers. And our credentialing is something that we're starting back. We did it prior to COVID, where teachers who were working with gifted students, is something called booster shots that the state sent out. One is on differentiation, one is on like compacting curriculum. So we are building 8 modules for them to go through over the course of a year to help our identified students. And we also are going on a monthly basis whenever we have our small group, doing our district meeting. It will be a part of that that's geared towards our gifted students as well for our principals. Partnerships, one thing that we have to identify is areas of need, areas that we have to strengthen in the plan. And one area for us was our advisory board. Right now, we have a parent advisory, we have student advisories. So what we're trying to do is trying to collaborate with Dr. Breelove, with some of the other chief officers when they have their advisory board, so that we can get on their agendas to talk about our AIG students as well, because they shouldn't be just in isolation, because a lot of their programming is an extension of what we do in our core. Parent and family information sessions, we do them in the fall and spring, and we try to do them on both sides of the county, because it's sometimes at 7 o'clock, 6:30 when you get off work, it's hard to travel on the other side of the county, either if you're living, on either side. Gifted Gab is our quarterly newsletter. We have a website, we do stakeholder surveys, and then we have partnerships with our local businesses. Program accountability, as Dr. Sawyer said, this is the beginning of our new cycle. Every 3 years, we have to write a new plan. How this revision starts, the team attends regional and state meetings to see the revisions of the new plans. We complete a timeline, and that timeline is linked there. We do a self-assessment of ourselves, and then we survey all our stakeholders, our teachers, our students, our parents. Based on the feedback, what we do is revise our plan. We also look at our academic data. Right now, with our AIG student subgroup, and it's not listed here, all our subgroups are performing at greater than 90% proficient on their EOGs or EOCs. The only one that is not is our English 2, which is at 89% proficient. But you have to recognize when the state reports it, it doesn't report it by identification. So it could be our AIG math students who are not making the cut, but the state doesn't differentiate that you're AIG math or AIG reading. And then we developed the plan in accordance to Article 9B. So funding for the plan, last year, we got $659,986. The state gives us 4%. The state gives us 4% of our total ADM. For the salary, the personnel that was listed there, excluding Dr. Sawyer now, the salary takes up $558,986. So we're left for $101,000 for any PD, any opportunities for our AIG students, but most of our funding goes towards salary. So that's just our program accountability piece of it. With the collaboration of the principals, we evaluate the AIG specialists. We do classroom visits to ensure that our students are getting what they need in their classrooms. So that's just a brief update of our 1 through 6 standards that were guided from the state. And this is how we wrote our AIG plan. Just like Mr. Bates, at the board meeting, there will be an approval sheet that needs to be signed by the board chair and our superintendent. Okay, any questions?
No, very good.
None? Okay.
Yes.
I thought y'all was, that last slide, y'all was gonna say, y'all was gonna give me some more money or something.
Nice try.
Like the little plug at the end.
There you go.
All right, next up.
Yes, ma'am, 6.6 esports at Pender High School.
Yep, and I am going to invite the expert, Mr. Lawson, up to let you into a little bit of esports.
By expert, she means really a geek that just loves video games. So that's kind of why I'm up here. Thank you, afternoon board, appreciate your time. Just wanted to, again, this is more of an informational item, but I'm just kind of here before you to get your support and share with you something we're trying to do at Pender High School to start. So esports really is this idea of competitive gaming, and I just want to point out that, you know, the projected audience is 640 million people by 2025. This is a $1.4 billion global industry. And I think when we talk about our students' passion for computer sciences, you know, we talked earlier about generative AI and stuff. This is kind of a gateway into that interest for a lot of our students. So again, 50% of students involved with esports end up in the STEM fields. 622 colleges and universities are actively recruiting esports players, offering $9 million in scholarships. You can see, it's kind of hard here, the image, but you can obviously see the presentation. This is actually from the UNCW lab there, where they've got their esports team that participates. We had the honor of going and meeting with Dr. Pastore at UNCW recently to see this wonderful lab that they set up and learn a little bit from them and how they started that program at UNCW. There's also a link there at the bottom that's kind of a short feature or movie on their program, how they get started. So I encourage you, if you're interested, to go take a look at that. It's very interesting, exciting. They're doing great things there at UNCW. So again, we're trying to create a pipeline for students into these high-tech jobs that we know are growing. Again, 5 million viewers watched the most viewed esports tournament. That was back in 2022. It's actually grown since then. From, again, we're now at 577.2 million worldwide. This has grown from 397.8 million in 2019. So this is a budding industry. It's something that is gaining momentum and excitement, and it might seem odd to some that maybe you're like, wow, why would someone watch people playing a video game? But it's actually great. I mean, there's a lot of facilities where, they're just popping up where people go to eat and they just, watch people playing a video game. It's just like they would watching a football game or a soccer game. It also is providing a lot of great soft skills that we see traditionally in other athletic programs: teamwork, communication, critical thinking, and time management, and builds a sense of belonging. This touches a lot of our students that maybe didn't feel like they had a family or a group that they fit in with in their school building, and this is a way to get them excited and passionate about their school and their group of people that they identify with. So a little bit about our journey, and again, kind of back to me being, a geek. I guess you could say this is a little bit of a passion project for me because I believe in the value of what this has to offer some of our students to get excited about. Back in 2009, we did what was called WOW in School. My predecessor here, who's now in Surrey County, Lucas Gillespie, started that initiative, and I had the great honor of being the teacher in the classroom using video games in after school and in an elective course. Back in 2009. We introduced Minecraft in 2011. And since then, there's been kind of a little bit of a lull there. And we want to reintroduce video gaming as a productive way to engage students in academic thought and the STEM career fields. So we're hoping to start and launch an esports program in the fall of next year at Pender High School. Some program non-negotiables, right? So one is game selection. When you're opening this up, this is very different than what you see traditionally at school. The idea of playing video games and having access to some technology that traditionally we would try to prevent students from getting off task during their classes to do. It's like, how do we use that safely with students? So one of those is making sure we're picking the right games. We're going to start with something called Rocket League, which, if you're not familiar, it's basically soccer with cars. So you're basically a team of 3 players. You're trying to knock the giant soccer ball in with your car. So it's a 3 versus 3 game. So we're going to start with that and then look at potentially adding some other games down the road. A code of conduct. Again, strict policies against bullying, making sure students are adhering to academic and attendance standards. And then parent involvement. So we want to make sure we get mandatory parental permission. Again, we're talking about programs that aren't traditionally in the education setting, so we want to make sure that they're aware of those programs and that they're opting in to allowing their students to participate in these activities. So there's a picture of Rocket League. You can see the cars flying through the air, hitting the soccer balls. A lot of fun. And then again, future, we might expand to some other video games of interest. We're looking to partner with Vessel. So one of the great things about Vessel, I'll just say up front, is absolutely free to districts. They're partners with the state, and so that means that they go around and offer these leagues, which you would often pay for a company to be a participant in those leagues. They offer them to us for free. So it's not any cost to us for our students to participate in this program and compete. Again, there's student opportunities with this. And so making that connection, I think, is important. You'll see right there some pictures here. These were students, I believe last year they were at UNCG. So again, the opportunity that there's a state or regional competitions where students can go and compete. And it's just really cool to see, you know, all the lighting and everything. It just makes it look real professional, and the kids get a lot out of it. There's a little video here if you'd like to learn more a bit about Vessel and what they offer as a service to districts around the state. And so our quick roadmap here, again, we're looking at phase one. We're going to launch Pender High Schools in the fall. We've spent this year getting equipment together, doing some planning, thinking how we're going to do this, being thoughtful of it. And we got a little work to do over the summer, but we'll get that all set up, and then we hope we can launch in the fall with them. We're hoping in phase two in the spring we can expand it to offering some more team members, maybe adding a couple games. Then the following school year, we'd like to add an additional high school or two, and then maybe even a middle school for just a club to kind of get some of those middle school students. Obviously, that would have further restrictions on what games could be played and how they would interact. They wouldn't necessarily, Vessel only allows high schools to participate, but it still gets some middle school students interested in what they could potentially do at high school. And then we're hoping by 2027 we can have some internal competition. I've already told UNCW that we'd like to have our team from Pender High School go and compete against their college team, and we were already kind of betting on who was going to win that competition. So there was some healthy competition there where they were excited about that kind of partnership and seeing how our students can maybe come visit what the college students are doing at UNCW. And so again, the vision is just really to empower students through this esport, this activity that they're excited about, that they're going home and thinking about, that they're going home and watching, right? And finding a way that we can include that in some of the after-school activities that we offer our students to really increase student engagement in their school and academics. So we're just seeking the board's support. We just kind of wanted to kind of give you a little highlight about what it is, and I really hope that in the fall we can come back when we actually have some of this going on, and you can hear from the staff members and maybe some of the students and see what they're doing. That would be really cool. Any questions?
That's great.
All right.
Are we going to do any virtual games with this also?
Yeah, so the competition, they would be competing against the other schools in the region, and so the team will be probably playing at the school after school, so the team will be there, but they'll actually be competing against a team that's not in the building. So it's kind of a virtual competition that would occur, but then there's the opportunity for, you know, a regional or state competition where they get to go and be there, you know, at UNCG or another location where they can actually compete, you know, in person against all those teams, which is really exciting.
I should have been more specific.
sorry.
I mean virtual games where where they're having to wear the virtual goggles and all that.
Right, the VR
And
headsets
are
and
we
VR
going to
headsets.
have to fund that additional equipment
Right.
for
So,
that?
yeah, so equipment is a thing. You know, obviously, computers that can play video games are super expensive.
Yes.
Right. We already have the machines in place, so all the hardware at Pender High School is in place for next year. So it's not going to be any additional cost for us. You know, again, a lot of that comes from the equipment's there for some of the CT classes and those types of things, and some additional funding that we have this year with Title IV. So I think that that's in place, but, you know, moving forward, if we want to expand, that might be something we have to look at, is like, do we have the equipment to expand to another high school? What does that look like? You know, we want to engage some local businesses and regional businesses to maybe help get their support. You know, part of this is we want to design jerseys for our students and stuff, and we're not past putting some names of some companies and businesses that want to support our team, right, on those, and any way that we can do to kind of engage the community to help fund something we think is exciting, and again, help support getting students into some of those STEM career fields and high-tech fields that, you know, they're looking for candidates that are passionate and
Perfect.
excited about it.
And you can get CTE to make your T-shirts for you.
I would
with their
love that
maker.
opportunity. I was hearing that, I was like, that would be great, right?
Yeah.
What a great way for us to kind of leverage a lot of different things that we're doing across the district, right? To support things. So yeah, that would be really cool to see them designing jerseys and logos for our students and staff.
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm actually quite excited about this. I want to come, whenever we get to a point where we can actually come see something happening. I'd love to go out and see this.
That'd be great, but only you gotta promise that you'll play against the students, right? Will you do
I
that?
will absolutely
Okay, awesome.
play,
Sounds great.
yes.
Look forward to it.
Okay, thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
And I have a question for our attorney right now. Since we are meeting the bare requirements for a quorum at right now, Mr. Hall, and here's Mr. Hall, I was going to ask, could we go ahead? But he's back, so we're good. Questions null and void right now. All right, thank you, sir. Okay, so, 6.7, New Healthy Living Standards Implementation 2025. Dr. Sawyer.
So last thing on the agenda for today for me, the healthy living standards have been updated at the state level due to be implemented in 25-26 school year as an initial implementation. So we wanted to give you a little bit of a view of what you're going to see as far as the implementation, what that's going to look like. And there are caveat to all of that. There are some new legislation that's out there that could impact some of this. So we'll talk about that at the end, just so you have an idea of what we're up against with some of this stuff. So the new healthy living standards, again, were updated due to be implemented this year. They cover mental, emotional health, personal and consumer health, interpersonal communications and healthy relationships, nutrition and physical activity, and alcohol, nicotine, cannabis, and other drugs. I will say one of the legislative items that did come out last year was that at the elementary level, the general education teacher is supposed to teach most of this stuff. That's not going to happen. We've actually been working with a lot of different entities to kind of help us around with some of this stuff, as we do understand some of it is sensitive in nature. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the standards, and that should clear up some of the ambiguity about what it is. But mental and emotional health covers basically overall psychological well-being, how we think, how we feel, how we act when we're faced with challenges. It teaches us how to cope with stress, build relationships, and basically make positive decisions. Some examples are understanding emotions, behaviors, and strategies to help solve conflict. Personal and consumer health deals with basically your individual's active participation in their own health, like their dental health and hygiene, physical health, wellness, disease prevention, and really talking about those ways that you can take care of your own personal well-being. The interpersonal communication and healthy relationships strand talks a lot about building and maintaining relationships, understanding empathy, conflict resolution, building trust and intimacy. This is the strand at which we are dealing with reproductive health at different grade levels. So reproductive health typically starts around 4th grade, 5th grade, and goes all the way up through 9th grade. It's sharing, bullying prevention, conflict resolution again, really promoting healthy relationships. Nutrition and physical activity deals with good nutrition, right? Taking care of what you're eating healthy, and the benefits of physical activity at the same time, all with the idea of reducing the risk of chronic diseases. And then alcohol, nicotine, cannabis, and other drugs is basically, it's all of that stuff, but understanding household safety, strategies to reduce behaviors, and basically the health risks of using alcohol, nicotine products, and other drugs. So, what we've done, we've been working with student services, and we're meeting with the health department, nurses, and the sheriff's department to kind of help us with some of this, as we know it is sensitive in nature. We already have some things in place, which is great, that will kind of help us move along through this. We already have Catch My Breath at grades 4, 6, and 8. We already have DARE at 5 and 7. We are already using nursing, our nurses that support with some of the reproductive health standards in grades 4 and 5. We're looking at meeting with the health department to see if they can support us with 6, 7, and 8. And then the sheriff's department in grade 7, there's quite a few standards that cover sex trafficking and really risks and things around that. So we want to make sure that we partner with the sheriff's department to kind of help us along with those standards in the understanding of what that looks like. So we're working on finishing curriculum guides now, and they're basically pacing guides directly from NCDPI. We're not looking at developing or adopting a common resource. There is no common resource that covers all of this stuff. So we are working on really developing our own. And some of the stuff that we're already doing fits a lot of these standards, especially when we're talking about socio-emotional health and all of those things. So we're looking on developing a K-5 and a 6-8 resource that will meet those needs. We know we're gonna have to provide professional development for our gen ed teachers and our physical education teachers on the new standards. Some of the standards, especially at elementary, can be done in like morning meeting time. They talk about sharing and they talk about bullying and things like that. Some of the stuff is already being done by physical education teachers, like nutrition and physical activity. So that will stay there. Some of the other standards we're pulling out completely and relying on some of our partners to support us in the implementation of those standards. So we're working on all of that. So there'll be a lot of things like shifting around over the course of the next year. And like I said, there are some new legislative items coming out that we're monitoring, because if they do come into play, it is going to cause a huge shift in what we can teach and what we can't teach, especially considering reproductive health is one of those. And it'll be all an opt-in, not an opt-out. Some counties across the state already do opt-out. Some counties across the state, like New Hanover, doesn't opt-in. And that's just the way they do it. So they send out the letters, they outline the standards that they're going to teach, and parents would have to send out the opt-in to actually learn about the reproductive health standards. So that is the avenue that we're looking to go for opting in on that, and that'll be in alignment with the new legislation when it does get passed. And then there's some other things that are within the new legislation that we're monitoring as well. Any questions?
Good enough. Just to comment, I think that it's great that you're pulling in so many different resources from outside
Yeah.
to make sure that we're covering everything and being as timely with everything as we possibly can. I thank you for
Yeah.
that.
We know that a lot of our teachers, just from meeting with them throughout the course of the last year, we knew the standards were changing, and they do, that was their biggest concern, is what can I do and what can we get someone else to do, because we don't feel comfortable doing it.
Right.
So, yeah,
That does make sense.
yeah. Thank you. So, you're welcome. Anything
Yes,
else?
ma'am. All good.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sawyer. Number 7, operations, 7.1, 3-tier bell schedule proposal.
Well, Mr. Lawson is pulling up a quick PowerPoint that shows the tables. I'll read the purpose of the request. Due to continued growth of our schools, the safety concerns created by our high traffic load on multi-school campuses and current demand for our transportation program, we are recommending a transition to a 3-tier bell schedule for the Topsail High feeder pattern in an effort to prioritize instructional time to reduce the traffic impact on several campuses and increase the potential for career status drivers. Our previous presentation, we had a recommendation. Thank you, sir. To move the bell times for the middle schools, Surf City Middle and Topsail Middle, at 7:30. The high school would be at 8:15, and the elementary schools would be at 9 a.m. That was the 45-minute split between those school grade patterns recommended by the group that performed our third-party analysis. Some of the questions and concerns regarding that were mentioned that night was the late start time for our elementary schools. And in conversation with several board members, that continued to be a concern that was shared by the stakeholders along the Eastern Corridor. We have reviewed the data, and by choosing to move the middle schools up an additional 10 minutes, we currently have a 5:45 earliest stop for a Topsail Middle School student in that feeder pattern. The new proposed stop, if we move to 7:20, would be a 5:47 stop. So there's actually zero time impact by moving that bell time up to 7:20. That bell time of 7:20 at Topsail Middle and Surf City Middle would also align with the middle schools on the western side of the county. This would allow us to move the elementary schools up to 8:50 and dismiss at 3:50. So our proposal or recommendation is to move this to an action item at the May 2025 board meeting. But at this time, are there any questions specific to the new times that we can answer?
I have none.
I have none either. I guess what we will do now is just sit back and wait and see what our constituency is going to email us.
Okay.
You know, I was talking with a parent last night, and we were talking about this bell schedule. And I wanted to impress on everybody that I know you've been working very hard on it. We've been taking a lot of input from parents and teachers about the bell schedule, and I wanted everyone to know that we are taking this very seriously. And any little bit, the one thing that I kept hearing consistently was the 9 to 4
Yes, ma'am.
was the biggest problem. And I hope it's 10 minutes, and I hope that that does alleviate some of the concern. I know it's not going to take away all of it because we're only talking 10 minutes, but it's something. And, we've got a whole lot of traffic, like I said, in a very small area. So I thank you guys for going back to the table and taking a look at it.
Yes, ma'am.
And right now, I guess the board is just going to have to have some internal conversations about it. So, all right, sir, I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right. The second item, 7.2, is cloud-based bus video platform. In an effort to improve our efficiency related to the retrieval of video footage from buses when incidents occur, this platform will allow immediate access to archive footage without having to retrieve an SD card from the vehicle itself. One of the comments that was made during our strategic planning committee discussion was the concern over safety of the data. Is that correct, Ms. Burns?
Yes, sir.
According to the vendor, there are a number of different mechanisms that go into protecting the data and safeguarding it. They use AWS services for the purpose to make sure that there is both file security and multiple redundancies provided on our behalf. From our level 2 access data, users must have the client software. These video files are encrypted to only be viewed in our software, and further user ID and passwords are granted to the administrators and the staff here in our district. Since the video is encrypted, no one without the software or the approved access to the cloud can actually gain access to this data. However, I do have an info sheet, a one-page information sheet that addresses the security along with other pieces I would share.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. No, and the reason I ask about this is because anymore you hear so much about hackers
Correct,
getting into information and getting into, well, information that they shouldn't be privy to.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was my main concern. So thank you for
Absolutely.
getting this. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. And our recommendation would again be to place this on the action agenda for the May board meeting. I will bring to your attention one error in the cover sheet. The fiscal implications for year one would actually be $125,308.74, which would be taken from capital. That is just for the equipment, and the purpose of utilizing this platform is it would be harmonious with our current camera equipment that is installed on the buses. If we were to also provide new cameras, it would be a significant financial burden that we would not be capable of covering, really.
So this is a one-time hit.
Yes, ma'am,
in
the
other
one-time
words.
hit. The
Okay.
annual recurring cost for the cellular service is actually part of the transportation funding mechanism, which would be state-funded and be part of our state allotment.
Very good.
So the first year is the significant cost, but obviously 117,000 of that is the equipment itself and the installation of it on our buses. Any questions? All right.
No, sir, I'm good.
Thank you. Item number 7.3 is the information related to the renovation church facility use agreement. We would like to move forward with the next 6-month facility use agreement with them. We would receive approximately $9,500 per month, obviously varying due to incidental changes in the usage and things of that nature, but we would ask to move this to the consent item at the next board meeting. Any questions? We have a great relationship with them.
We
Those
do.
of you who don't know, it's a great partnership. They also provide additional services twice a year. They do a serve day for all of the schools along the eastern corridor. All right, the next item is the K-8 change order log update. There are 5 proposed changes, change orders for this cycle. We are getting really close to the end on change orders. These are what we expect to be the NCDPI and DOI final comments regarding any of the infrastructure that's in the facility. Additionally, we are nearing the completion of the BIM modeling, which will hopefully eliminate any change orders later down the road, which are significant for those of you that have been around construction. And I know Mr. Hall was here when the other 2 schools were built, and change orders coming in the last 6 months of construction is not very friendly to the purse strings. The recommendation would be to move these items to the consent agenda at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Mr. Taylor, did that include 7.4, the new K-8 natural gas easement?
No, ma'am, that's a separate easement, and
Okay.
I'll be at that in just a second.
Yes, sir.
Did I
Okay.
miss them? Did I not have them in order? I apologize.
That's all right. I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget it.
No, ma'am. The next item that I have is the K-8 pay application number 10. This pay application is for $1,935,032.41, which would be allocated from the bond funding if approved by you. The recommendation would be to move this to the consent agenda at the next regularly scheduled board meeting. And I think the pay application is included. It's a rather large document, but you can see the progress on each line item in that pay app. The next item is the proposed natural gas easement. For those of you that don't know, there is currently from the 210 17 corridor, there are no natural gas lines currently run. Duke, Progress Energy, Piedmont Natural Gas, they're all conglomerate. They will be running a service line to our new school. This request and the map that you have before you has been reviewed by P&G as well as Bordeaux, and there are no conflicts currently with any of the infrastructure that we would be putting in regarding the natural gas easement that's proposed. The next step, if given your approval, would be to work with our county team, I would reach out to Ms. Blue and start navigating next steps since the property is actually in Pender County's name.
Very good.
Any questions regarding that? I know
No,
Mr. Hall is an advocate of Piedmont Natural Gas. They have done a lot of work
Save a
for our
lot of money for
schools.
the school.
And yes, it is a significant financial savings to our school system when it comes to utilities. Hopefully, we will be migrated completely along the eastern corridor very soon. We've been doing a lot of work. A lot of schools have transitioned. We're halfway through Topsail High now, and the next one would be Surf City. Hopefully, we can do that, and it would be a projected $55,000 last year in savings if we had natural gas versus propane.
wow.
So it's a pretty significant impact to our utilities.
It's worth
Any-
the effort.
Yes, ma'am. Any questions or comments related to any of the items that I've shared with you? All right, thank you for
No,
your time.
sir, thank you. Okay, board, at this time, we have completed the agenda. Would anyone like to make a motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Mr. Hall's made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate your time.